There are times in our life when the world around us seems to grow almost too loud, and the demands of our inboxes, the pressures of productivity, those surprise expectations that we carry, these begin to accumulate. And in all of that busyness and noise, it can be really easy to lose sight of not only who we are, but what we're here for. And it's in moments like this that I cast my mind back to Henry David Thoreau's Walden, his account of the 2 years that he spent living in a one-room cabin near Concord, Massachusetts. It's a famous work, of course, but it's a misremembered work in many ways. And that's what I want to unpack today, because Thoreau didn't go to Walden to disappear. Thoreau went to Walden to see more clearly and to engage with his life more fully. I'm Dr. Alan Johnson, and on this channel, I talk about the mind, well-being, productivity, and change for thinkers, makers, and everyone in between. When Thoreau wrote, "I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately," he was saying something really quite radical. Not just radical for the 19th century, but radical for any century, and perhaps especially radical in our own post-capitalist time. He said that because he wanted to strip life back to its absolute essentials and to test what he could learn from that experience, and to discover what that sense of solitude had to give to him. And that line is quoted endlessly. We hear it all the time, but it remains really, really powerful, this idea of going to the woods to live more deliberately, because it asks us to do something most of us ultimately avoid, to look at and question the shape of our lives before we are forced to confront the finitude of them, or forced to confront the fact that they will come to an end. It's a metaphysical challenge that seems almost too massive for us to encounter. So we resist it. We resist thinking about what is the actual shape of our lives. We oftentimes picture Thoreau as a sort of hermit in the woods, completely retreating from society. And we think that that's not something we can do. We think that there aren't any lessons from Walden for us in the 21st century. But that image of Thoreau as a remote hermit isn't anywhere near the reality of it. It was really much more nuanced than that. His cabin, and yes, he did go out and live in this cabin, it was a short walk from town. It was about half a mile away. He had visitors. He went to other people's houses. He had parties in his cabin. So this wasn't about completely removing himself from society. And I think that so oftentimes we resist this type of contemplative minimalist life because we think that it means that we have to completely remove ourselves from the world. And it's not the minimalism and the contemplation that terrifies us most. It's the thought of completely divorcing ourselves from everything that matters to us. So Thoreau wasn't divorcing himself from everything that mattered to him, but he was removing himself far away enough from that so he could figure out what actually did mean something to him. So this wasn't asceticism just for its own sake. It was kind of like a philosophical experiment, seeing what happens when the everyday routine is removed, and what is really valuable and what is really important when you don't have all of those signals and sounds from outside in society coming in and telling you what you should think, what you should do, what you should buy, where you should live, and how you should feel about your own life. So rather than seeking complete monastic isolation, Thoreau created just enough distance from the bustle of everyday life to notice how it shaped him. And suddenly I think that this begins to sound like something that is a little bit more achievable for us. It's not about disappearing from society for 6 months or 2 years, but it is thinking about, well, where are we able to invite in more of that sense of contemplation into our lives? And where are we able to remove some of that unnecessary noise and clutter that we think is giving meaning and purpose to our lives when maybe it actually isn't? Thoreau was deeply influenced by philosophical and spiritual trends that were emerging in New England at the time. Transcendentalism was one of the most famous of these philosophical and spiritual traditions, but there were many others as well, less well known today, but still influential in their own more subtle way. I'll be speaking about those in future videos. But one of the threads that we see connecting all of these 19th century New England philosophies was this particular idea that nature wasn't just about giving us aesthetic pleasure, and it wasn't just about giving us resources. Nature provided us moral instruction. Nature can teach us how to live. So Thoreau's writing, unsurprisingly then, is filled with really careful observations of the natural world, the sounds of the birds, the freezing over of the pond, the quality of light as it shifts gradually across the day. And these aren't just kind of decorative or lyrical descriptions. These seem to take on almost a diagnostic quality to them as Thoreau is trying to understand the natural world. And in Walden, he invites us to practice what we might now call disciplined receptivity, just to slow down, to attend to our surroundings, and in doing so, clear out enough space to come into contact with our inner life. So this type of disciplined receptivity seems more like something that we're able to achieve in our busy daily lives, working 9-to-5 jobs, having family and children and friends and partners. We probably can't move to a cabin in the woods by ourselves for 2 years, but maybe we can begin to build up those skills of discipline, of our receptivity to our own inner self. There's precisely that kind of contemplative minimalism running through Walden that can inspire us in our own lives. Now, I need to make really clear, this isn't the type of minimalism that we see on Pinterest or we see in lifestyle brands, because there's a lot of content out there on minimalism today that is all about accumulation of new stuff. To be minimal, you need to get this particular set of organizers or this particular brand of clothing or have this particular 10-step face care habit every morning. So it's really curious then that even though minimalism seems so important to us today, we still have that very, very strong capitalist tendency to try to find a way to purchase it. So that's not what I'm speaking about. I'm not speaking about that type of contemplative minimalism that we see in the perfectly curated online lives. Instead, I'm talking about a much deeper form of spiritual economy, because Thoreau wasn't asking, how can I have less? He was asking, what do I truly need in order to live well? And I think so much discourse around minimalism today is, how can I have less? How can I thrive with less? How can my choices be more sustainable? How can my choices be more minimalist? And the importance of thinking about sustainability as we encounter the growing climate crisis is absolutely vital. But we need to be very, very cautious of when our attunement to a sustainable lifestyle becomes about accumulating new stuff, about getting the new special wax wraps for a fruit, or replacing our entire wardrobe for the special cotton organic clothes. Over time we can replace our stuff with more sustainable options, but we need to remember that minimalism and a connection to the natural world is not about accumulation. And it's not about saying, how can we have less by replacing it with different things? It's about saying, what do I truly need in order to live well? And I think that the reason that we oftentimes jump ahead to that idea of, I can be more minimalist and more sustainable if I have this product and that product and that product, is because that feels safer and more comfortable to us than saying, what do I actually need to be happy? And of course, today, our distractions are very different to the ones that Thoreau encountered in Massachusetts in the 19th century. Ours are digital and they are constant, but the underlying pressures of distractions of society are exactly the same. That's exactly what Thoreau recognized that he wanted to step away from. Not so he could figure out how to live with less, but so that he could figure out what he truly needed in order to thrive and to live well. And that practice of living deliberately is still available to us, although it might look a little bit different. So, making a cup of tea and actually tasting it and enjoying it rather than scrolling through Pinterest or Instagram and looking for the perfect idealized tea set or the perfect idealized space in which the glamorous content creator is drinking their tea. So, reconsidering whether the things that we call urgent are really aligned to our values is the invitation that Thoreau in his work offers to us. And he reminds us ultimately that transformation begins in tiny acts of observation and clarity. Transformation is not about clearing out your wardrobe and replacing it with the best, most sustainable, healthiest, most organic clothes that are beautiful and you've seen online. That might be a great thing to do. And, why not replace your wardrobe item by item over time? That's not where real transformation lies. We think that we can have our moment of Walden style enlightenment in a big flash like that. But what Thoreau really teaches us is that it is the individual small moments of simplicity and clarity that are going to build up and grow and evolve and ultimately change our relationship to ourselves and the world around us in ways that we cannot even yet begin to imagine. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to this channel. We're doing a deep dive over the next few months into transcendentalism and related philosophies and really how they continue to be valuable and give us tools in the 21st century. And drop a comment in the comments below about how you are bringing this philosophy into your life today. How are you bringing a little bit of the ideas of Walden into your world? I will see you next time, and until then, stay mindful. I'll see you then.